Welcome back. Yesterday on The Pulse, you saw a conversation with Dr. Louise van Rijn, a member of the Convocation of the University of Stellenbosch. She said that she and several other members of the Convocation wanted to remove the 5-member Convocation executive because they've been trying to remove the university's Vice Chancellor, Professor Wim de Villiers. It seems they first tried to remove him over language policies and the use of Afrikaans. Now the Convocation executive wants him removed because it's emerged he helped a relative get a place at the university's medical school over another student who had a better mark. However, Van Rijn and other members of the university's convocation have said that the people who are trying to remove de Villiers are really trying to remove him to stop transformation at the university. They claim that the fight over de Villiers is not about nepotism, but about that. Yesterday she said that, in particular, the DAMP and member of the Stellenbosch Council and member of the Stellenbosch Convocation, Dr. Schreiber, was playing a role in attacking de Villiers. Well, he's here for you now. Dr. Schreiber, good afternoon to you, and thank you for your time. I do appreciate it. You say de Villiers should go. Why do you believe that the Vice-Chancellor at the University of Stellenbosch should leave his position?
Hi, Stephen, and to the viewers. Just to start off by maybe clarifying the fact that I'm not a member of the Convocation Executive, so the bigger question around that issue I will leave to them to deal with. But on the issue before Council, what happens is essentially the following, that you are correct that I personally have lost confidence in the Vice-Chancellor over a series of events that have taken place at the university. But when that initial motion was actually tabled, there was a motion from the Senate which actually endorsed Professor de Villiers. And in response to that, a whistleblower came forward with the very serious nepotism allegations, and that has now resulted in a full-scale investigation that was unanimously instituted by the Council, not by me, not by any other committee or person, by the full Council at Stellenbosch University in its full diversity. And it is that investigation which is now being led by a retired judge and with other members from Council that will be delving very deeply into what the Council has called grave allegations. So this is the root of the particular issue, and it is this matter which is now being investigated, and the facts will speak for themselves.
So, I mean, I appreciate all of that, and I also accept that it's a very serious issue for the university. If we just go back a little bit, put the nepotism thing to one side, I accept that it's serious, but put it to one side for a moment. Did you also want de Villiers removed because of the language issue and because of other issues? So before the nepotism issue emerged, before the whistleblower blew the whistle on this, did you want him removed before that?
I was extremely concerned about the findings by the South African Human Rights Commission over language practices at the university. And very specifically, Stephen, going back to 2021, I was personally involved in actually bringing forward some of those complaints. Even before I was elected by the Convocation, I might add, as a council member, I had been involved in raising these issues. And I saw up close how for over 2 years there was denial and unwillingness to actually address these issues. So when the Human Rights Commission report came out and confirmed that these were human rights violations, I found it absolutely unacceptable that I had seen up close how this was not taken seriously. So in that context, for the Senate then to endorse the Vice-Chancellor and really praise him was something that clearly activated the whistleblower who eventually came forward. And now we have a much bigger and more comprehensive problem that is affecting and dividing the university.
The finding that you're talking about when it comes to language is about Afrikaans, right? And if I remember correctly, the finding was that some students have been told or advised, maybe told, not to speak in Afrikaans.
Yes, so what the Human Rights Commission confirmed, and I must say it was really a very comprehensive process with hearings on campus that I also participated in, along with a range of students and people who were affected, is that students were told when they arrived on campus that they were not allowed to speak Afrikaans specifically, but also other languages, that they were being told essentially that this is an English-only space. And the Human Rights Commission confirmed that there were a range of violations that was involved in that process, and it is that which really, I think, is cause for great concern. But I do want to say this, Stephen. When you talk about transformation, I find it really very rich to suggest that not acting with the vigor and the urgency that is required in this case, and specifically around nepotism, that is really the thing that undermines transformation. Because we must never forget, you mentioned one placement. What we know about so far, according to the allegations, is that there were at least 2 close family members who were preferenced, given spots at this university, and by definition that means they were given these spots over more deserving and more underprivileged students. So it is a farce to suggest that defending nepotism is somehow in defense of transformation.
So I accept that, and I think that must be true. I mean, it would be like having a residence on the campus that only accepted people whose parents or whose fathers had been or whose uncles had been at the university before. I mean, it would be completely against transformation. It would, in effect, be the same thing. At the same time, though, it could also be true, I'm not saying it is, but the argument that comes from Van Ryn, from people like Professor Thuli Madonsela, I know that you maybe used to be a fan of hers, but are not any longer, but the argument comes from that side of it at the University of Stellenbosch, that you and others are really want de Villiers out, not so much because of the nepotism, but because you believe that he is driving transformation, and you oppose that. I may be putting words in their mouth, but that's my inference. That's what they're saying. How do you respond to that? That you really oppose de Villiers because he's pro-transformation and therefore you must be against it, would be the argument.
No, it's simply not true, Stephen. And I would turn it around and say that if you are really for transformation, then it is very difficult for me or anyone really to understand how you can be so upset about this nepotism investigation. And I must just emphasize this point. It was a unanimous council decision to create this committee and to investigate grave allegations. The concern I have with a response that is almost hysterical about this investigation is what are these members of Convocation who are now upset and aggrieved by the call for action against the Vice-Chancellor, what are they going to say if the facts, which very much seem like facts, are actually confirmed by this finding? What if it is true that there was nepotism? What if it was true, as the investigation is currently exploring as well, exactly as you said, Stephen, whether residence admissions and a broader scope of admissions controlled by the Vice-Chancellor was also influenced in a way that promoted nepotism? That is the answer we need, and those are the facts that we need on the table. So to come out in this way, sort of defending the Vice-Chancellor and trying to attack people who want a proper investigation and a proper consideration of whether he must be removed over these actions, I think is a very dangerous and slippery slope and not entirely honest.
The other point that Van Ryn made yesterday was that you are a member of council, you're also a member of Parliament for the Democratic Alliance, and if I understood her claim correctly, she was suggesting that you were using your position at Stellenbosch to advance your interests as a DAMP. I think the phrase people use nowadays is that you were virtue signaling, if you know what I mean, by using your position on council. You were acting at Stellenbosch in a way to try and advance your political views or your political agenda within the Democratic Alliance. How do you respond to that claim, as she put it?
Well, the way that I respond to it is to say that I am not on convocation because of anything that on council, because of anything that a political party said or did. I am there because I got a mandate from the convocation. So we must also, not be confused about this fact that there are some members of council, and this is true for all universities, that are elected democratically by members of convocation. And I stood as one candidate with a very clear offer to convocation, and I won by a handy margin. And that is what I am doing on council. But the danger with this argument is, of course, that there are council members who are, in some cases, appointed by the minister. There are council members who represent other interests. And the suggestion that people should not have views, or perhaps even more sinisterly, that members of council should not be acting independently, but should be somehow reporting to people behind the scenes, that for me is the real risk in terms of the political issue here. Because council members are actually mandated by law to be independent and impartial when they are elected onto council and to act in the best interests of the university. I firmly submit to you that that is exactly what I'm doing by pursuing a proper investigation and possibly a sanction should the facts of this case be confirmed.
Okay, so just to be clear then, it wouldn't matter if there was also someone elected onto the convocation at the University of Stellenbosch who came from the ANC or the EFF, for example.
There are members of that council with varying and broad affiliations, Stephen, but I must say this to you, that I have found Stellenbosch University Council to be exceptionally diligent and committed. This is not a remunerated position or anything like that. It is something that takes long hours of hard work and dedication, and everyone that I serve there, who come from a very vast range of backgrounds, including, in some cases, political backgrounds, are people who are committed to this university and also to properly exploring the facts behind this case, which is why it was unanimously decided it must be investigated.
Dr. Leon Schreiber, thank you very much indeed. Member of the Stellenbosch University Council, a member of the Convocation, and also a member of Parliament for the Democratic Alliance.